Hello, welcome to Brews and Reviews episode 5. Today I'll be talking about the Tooth and Claw Dry Hops Lager from Off Color Brewing and the Advice Show, Media with a Common Sense Approach. Alright, well, without further ado, nice bouquet, very floral. I believe in dry hopping, the hops are placed in the nascent beer in a small bag or pouch. Thus they remain dry during the brewing process. Anyway, this one's pretty good. I'm going to give it an 8. Now, let's move on to my review of the Advice Show. Now, if you've never seen the Advice Show before, I'll link to it in the description box. But it is a show by a gentleman, African-American gentleman named Phil, typically about race issues, race-related issues, or things affecting the black community today. Other times not, sometimes just about goofy stuff that he's interested in. One of the reasons why I developed such a fondness for this programming over the years, and I have been watching this guy for years, I really like him, is that he goes to such great lengths to make what he's doing seem to be official in some capacity. Because the fact is, this guy isn't acting in any official capacity. He's just a regular black guy who put on a suit and stood in front of a green screen and started giving his opinions. And enough people liked him that he's become fairly famous today. A lot of my friends, even without my recommendation, have been watching the Advice Show. It's getting bigger every day. I also like that Phil makes an attempt at officialness or seriousness, at least, in terms of the language that he chooses to use. He's always, the word that comes to mind is careful, I guess, or maybe care. He takes a lot of care in choosing exactly the words he describes that he wants to use, and in advancing the arguments that he believes in. You may be saying to yourself at home, Henry, you seem like a fairly white guy. Why are you concerned about what's going on in black America? Well, I don't know. I guess it's just something to be interested in, something to occupy my time and think about. But the truth is, I don't really have that much connection to black people and to black people either individually or as an advocate. The main interaction that I have with black people, the only black person who I interact with, routinely more than once and can identify as an individual, is the guy I call Fish Guy, who works behind the seafood counter at the local grocery store. I don't really so much like him. He's very surly and doesn't really seem to enjoy doing his job, which of course is understandable. I don't enjoy doing my job either. But he weighs things out incorrectly and sometimes, doesn't want to give me fresh seafood, tries to give me frozen instead, so I'm nice to him anyway. I'm 10% nicer than I would be to a white guy. Even a Fish Guy isn't that nice to me. This is my personal bid to undo white supremacy and dismantle whiteness. To sum up the socio-political philosophy of the Advice Show in a word and a half, it would be pro-black. It stands very much in contrast, for example, to Tommy Sotomayor's channel. My reaction to this is mostly one of me too. I tend to mostly not like white people all that much, especially very, very wealthy white people. I tend to favor the Charles Manson approach in dealing with them. I would like to criticize the Advice Show on one point, or not even maybe really criticize, but just point this out. I believe that the host is what is known as a black Israelite. These are people who believe that the African Americans of today are actually the Jews described in the Old Testament. And the people who claim to be the Jews today, the Jews, are in fact imposters. Lots of people believe lots of crazy stuff, but this is pretty crazy. In fact, I was one of my Lyft drivers. I was saying I don't interact with the black community much. Here's a second black person who I spoke to recently. He was also a black Israelite. He didn't want to refer to himself as such, but over the course of our 20-minute conversation, it came out that that's who he was. I did say to this guy, you know, there are in fact white people who make the exact same claim to be the biblical Jews. This is called the Christian Identity Movement. If you're aware of Shepherd's Chapel, run by Arnold Murray, he is a proponent of this view. And then I didn't want to make the guy upset, but I did have to say, and of course there are also the Jews who claim to be the Jews. And we got to, you know, we began talking about the Bible a little bit, and this is one of the few things I kind of know about. He seemed a little turned around on one specific issue, specifically talking about Jacob and Esau from the Bible. If you don't know this story, Jacob, of course, becomes one of the biblical patriarchs, whereas Esau is undone. Esau is the hairier brother, who my Lyft driver was saying, like, this is the forefather of white people. And he was surprised to learn that, in fact, in the Bible, it's Esau who gets screwed over by Jacob, and not the other way around. It's that hairy brother. The hairy brother is the good brother. The smooth brother is the evil brother. The weird part of it is that Jacob isn't even punished for what he does to Esau. You would think in the Bible there would be some kind of morality where it would be proven to Jacob by God in no uncertain terms that what he had done was wrong. In wrapping those goat skins around his arms and pretending to be Esau. But that's not what happens, you know. When you actually read some of these ancient texts, you find they don't really consist of the stories that you would think they do, and the morality therein is somewhat curiously reversed in some cases. We also talked about the curse of Ham briefly. He felt that the curse of Ham might be one of the reasons black people continue to struggle here in the USA. I'm not so sure that's true, but that was his feeling on the matter. I wanted to mention just a few videos and types of videos that the Advised Show does that I personally enjoy. These aren't going to be a top 5, not in any particular order, just mix and match here. First of all, the Chicken Alfredo video. This was a young man, maybe, I don't know, he was fairly young himself. He was like 19 or 20. And he met online with a guy, what he thought was a guy who was like 14 or 15, and he was going to exchange sex with this gentleman, this young boy in fact, for some Sprite and some chicken Alfredo. And just Phil's reaction to this story, he cannot believe it. Just his facial expressions and his body language, you've got to check it out, man. Advised Show Chicken Alfredo. Another video of the Advised Show that I really enjoyed was his FBI crime stats video. This is trolling par excellence. I really love nothing more than some really, really good trolling. And what he does is he gets out the FBI crime stats and he says, well, look, if you see here, murders, who commits most of the murders in the United States? It's white people. And of course, there's 1,000 comments in the comment section being like, but black people are only 13% of the country, so of course they commit fewer murders numerically. But, you know, the point, of course, is that that's only one way of looking at it. Only one way of looking at the situation. The one doesn't mean that the other isn't true. Third, I will mention Ratchet Video Weekly. This is another channel that the same guy does. It's a little goofier, a little silly, but, you know, if you're just getting back from a long day of work, and, excuse me, and you're trying to relax, check out Ratchet Video Weekly, too. It's pretty fun. Here's another one. Here coming in at number 4. White woman touches black woman's hair. We've all heard about these microaggressions and how you shouldn't be performing them, and how now on college campuses they're, you know, having little classes about how not to microaggress against one person or another. It seemed very silly to me until I saw what these microaggressions were and, like, listed them. It was ridiculous stuff. It was like, don't touch black people's hair, for example. It was hard for me to believe that there's really an epidemic of black people hair touching going on the part of white people. But apparently it is happening to some people. I'm gonna give you some advice. Some advice. This is not just for white people. This is for anybody. For anybody dealing with anybody. Don't touch anybody's hair if you don't know them. Don't touch anybody's anything if you don't know them. You don't put your hands on another person when you are out interacting with the public. Period. Not ever. And finally, number 5. This is, again, it's not a specific video, but a kind of a category. Anything with Neanderthug in the title. Whenever any white people have been committing crimes, he usually refers to them as Neanderthugs. I believe what he's referring to in doing this is that black people, sub-Saharan Africans, are the only humans alive today who do not have any Neanderthal DNA. He seems to view this, I think, in a positive way, and to believe, again, like perhaps the Nation of Islam. Check out Dr. Yaqub's history, if you get a chance, for more on this. He seems to believe that white people lived in the caves of Europe, interbreeding with dogs, etc. I mean, it seems kind of crazy, but some people really do believe this. And, yeah, so check that out. Anyway, let's do this final chug here, and then we'll get to our final review of the Advised Show. Like I said, I'm a big fan, been a big fan for years. I'm given pause, I will say, by the Afrocentrism, by the Black Israelitism. So it's not going to be a perfect 10. I'm going to give the Advised Show an 8. Check in next week for more brews and reviews.